welcome to Peep Live, episode number 14. We're coming to you live from the centre of Newcastle. Thank you for joining us here tonight for our, as I say, our 14th episode. Here are some of your takeaways for tonight's show. The draw is finally here for our competition that we've been running for, I think, about 10 episodes now. We have a winner for that. We have our usual slot with Ridley Scott, which is, The Awakening and the Alien Timeline. That should be interesting. Bruce Lee, an overview of life, which I'm sure that's the reason many of you have tuned in for, all 2,100 plus of you. Hollywood Boil with our man in Scotland, my close friend, Mr. Chris Reid, and Jordan Peterson, not chapter, but rule number 4. We have, as I've said before, we actually have a special announcement to make following what I've already said. We have reached over 2,000 subscribers, and we'd like to thank each and every one of you out there for taking the time to watch the show, to subscribe. We have a tremendous amount of content on the channel, as you have seen, not just combat news. We're diversifying into art, into streetwear, into dipping into science and literature, into film, a whole selection of different topics that we have been covering. We will continue to cover on Peep Live. Look out for myself and Cliff visiting a rather iconic cinema in the upcoming episodes. And Mr. Scott Illingworth is also continuing with the trade routes. So we will be drawing the prize tonight. And if you haven't already subscribed, there it is. And with our festive swing on things tonight. Yeah. This is actually our last show before Christmas. And we're not quite in December the 1st, but we're almost there. But you can see we took the time to decorate the studio with a blue and red bit of tinsel. So no expense has been spared. Once we get to 5,000 subscribers, Cliff, our man behind the camera, is actually going to dress up as Santa Claus and hand out presents to orphan children on the streets. So you can follow us on Twitter at Peep Magazine. Follow us on Instagram at Peep Limited. Website is peep.ltd. Just checking there, making sure I was correct. My name is James Watling. I am the official Chief Officer of Creative Content at Peep, and also the creator and founder of Team Alpha, which is a training, nutritional, supplementational ethos and brand. We have martial arts classes, mixed martial arts, kickboxing, strength and conditioning, track conditioning. We work with professional athletes, amateur athletes, and individuals. So if you are interested in coming along, you can find us on Instagram at Team Alpha 1424. You can find me also on Twitter at WatlingHot, and you can follow us on Facebook on the Elite Fitness. We are based in Elite Fitness in Alnwick, the Northeast #1 training facility. You can find us there. And I'm also joined with Mr. Scott Illingworth.
Hello.
What C do you have on your name for Peep?
I don't think we should ask that question.
As Peep's Chief Creative Officer, I feel I need to ask that. Behind the camera, we have Peep's main freak daddy, Mr. Cliff Sainsbury, the heir to the Sainsbury fortune. So once that comes through, we'll be moving to a bigger office, I think. Do you think? Hopefully, yeah.
Well, with some central heating would be useful.
We've been promised several offices.
James, can you ask Chris, because he's watching it?
Yes.
Lag on his side, because it seems like there's a bit of a lag going on.
Mr. Reid, can I ask you if there is a lag on your on your viewing of the show, because we may have a technical hitch, but hopefully not. The show is sponsored by... Sorry, have you done your introduction?
I've done my introduction.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that's fine.
The show is sponsored by Spennymoor Sports, the Northeast #1 sporting retailer, along with our #1 training facility. So a big thank you to Kieran Kane at Spennymoor Sports. You can find the small section we did on his store, covering some of the tremendous lineage heritage on the store. Your #1 place for boxing, combat, and regular sports at Spennymoor Sports. Our intro music was brought to you by an American new metal band, Consinity. The music of the intro is called Sea of Lonely, which is a song from their debut album, Awaken the Fallen. The Consinity's manager had reached out to us at Peep. They're a big fan of the show and asked if we'd be interested in using some of their music on the show. And we were more than happy to. Actually, very grateful to have their music on our show. And their website is www.consinitymusic.com. Also mentioned the lead singer. We'd been in contact through Instagram, and so once you do come over to the UK, as I've said before, you'd be very welcome to come over and train at Elite Fitness. I'll take you and train with you myself, so I'm looking forward to that. So our latest online magazine is available it's on issueissuu.com, and it's called Tokyo 16. Scott, what's everyone been up to?
That's the question I was going to ask.
That's
James.
sorry, that's your line.
That's my
That's
line.
not mine. That's your line. So let me
Yeah.
do that again. Scott, how you doing?
I'm all right, James. And how are you?
Fantastic. I'm good, thank you. I'm good.
Have you been up to anything exciting over the last month or so?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that question. What have I been up to? Well, the world is my oyster. Now, I've been quite busy with the coaching, the mentoring's going really well. Elite Fitness, I mentioned before, that's building nicely. I'm the mentoring program that I have is growing. It's establishing nicely. Training's been going great as well.
Brilliant.
You know, been changed my training around. A lot of compound exercises, building up strength for the winter. Enjoying my jiu-jitsu. Shout out to Origin BJJ over in Newcastle. Been training over there with Ian Malone. One of David Elliott's black belts. Been training
Excellent.
my jiu-jitsu, enjoying that.
Cool.
Enjoying life and enjoying Netflix. What can I say? All good.
Enjoying Netflix.
And the kids are great. Can I just shout to my daughter, Kiana Jade Watton, in case she's watching? She's coming to stay with me over the weekend. We're going to watch the Fury and Wilder fight. So all good.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Cliff. What have you been up to, my friend?
Hey, can you hear us? Yes. I think I'm coming through. Yeah. Obviously, as always, I watch a lot of stuff online. I watch a lot of BBC iPlayer, and there's a good documentary on at the moment on Mozart.
On what's it? Motown?
Mozart.
Oh, Mozart.
When his family came from, I don't know where he was born. Where was he born?
Oh, I was thinking Germany when I
Germany,
when I think of Mozart.
Austria.
Austrian.
Yeah.
I'm a Philistine.
Austrian. When they come to London, and it's just a culture shock when the family came to London, and he wrote his first symphony. At 8 years old. So 8 years old.
That is amazing, isn't
Incredible.
it?
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely
So
fantastic.
I'm not going to go too heavy. I'm not going to go spoiler light. So that's it. I've been watching a lot of other stuff, but
that one caught your attention.
I'm just going to keep that brief. So
No. Salzburg, Austria. That's where his birthplace.
Austria. So have you ever get the chance to, if you want to know a bit more about Mozart, check out BBC iPlayer.
It's Wolfgang
Excellent.
Mozart.
Yeah. And that's it, really. Thanks.
Cool. No. Good. Thank you very much for that.
I like a bit of
If anyone can see a lag, please.
There's no lag.
Right, brilliant.
There'd be
Thanks,
no lag.
Chris.
There'd be no lag. How
How
about you, Scott? What have you been up to?
I've just been working,
How
to be
have
honest.
you been?
Losing clients, getting clients, all exciting stuff. The roundabout of life and that. One thing caught me attention though is that we've got one of our favourite magazines, channels, content creators, Vice, are cutting staff. Well, not cutting staff; they're having a staff freeze. So that is due to financial issues they're having, which was an interesting little tidbit that both me and Cliff were pretty shocked at, to be honest. They're looking at, because obviously with the growth, they had loads of channels come on, about 12 channels. So they're cutting the channels down as well, which will be good because I think there's way too much there. So yeah, that was quite a weird bit of news that came. And yeah, wasn't expecting that whatsoever.
Turn of events.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, we're going to move on with the show. We're going on to the peep takeaways. We'll give you a brief idea of what to expect. And we've thrown a bit of a curveball at both you, the viewer, and us, the presenters of the show. So expect for fireworks and the four horsemen of the apocalypse: fire, floods, famine, and death. So hopefully we'll manage to get through it. So we've changed things up a little bit. So tonight, the first the first section is going to be our usual slot with Ridley Scott. We've moved combat news back, so we're going to talk a little bit on one of our fans of the show.
Should we
Mr.
do that
Ridley
with
Scott.
a bit more oomph?
Well, I'm all up for that. Okay,
Yeah.
our usual slot with Ridley Scott.
Ridley Scott.
Ridley Scott. Ridley. It's rumoured that Ridley Scott, the famous director, as I'm sure you're all aware of, most famous, I would say, for the direction of Alien, Blade Runner, Gladiator, Black Hawk Down. What was the other great film that he did? It had the chap from Lord of the Rings who played Legolas. Oh, it was a great film on the Crusades. Anyway, a tremendous director with lots of prestige and awards to his name, and he's a big fan of the show. So we like to do a little bit on him. So we're going to talk a little bit on the Alien timeline. Just going to go through this for you. So not everybody appreciates the what would it be, the chronology of the Alien films that came out. The first one that actually came out officially was obviously Alien. But we're going to look at the timeline, the cinema timeline of these movies. So the first one was actually Prometheus, which reflects the years 2019 to 2094. So actually, next year. So here we go. A team of scientists, essentially just a team of scientists tracing the origins of life on Earth. When they land on the moon, they find gods. They don't find gods. They find aliens. Now, if you haven't seen Prometheus, it's a good movie. I give it about a 6.5 out of 10. One of my close friends, actually, Mr. Ian White, starred in Prometheus. He played the alien.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Mr. Ian White. Yeah.
We need to get him on the show.
We can get him on the show. Well, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Yeah, we could. I can certainly ask him. Mr. Ian White, a friend and training partner of mine, played the alien Prometheus. Also in Aliens versus Predator, Game of Thrones.
Ian White,
brilliant.
You need to get on the show.
Yeah.
We'll get him on. You can follow actually Mr. Ian White on Twitter. I think it's at Ian White. So that was So he's so we'll have to ask him to come on. The second film in the on the timeline is Alien Covenant, and that came out, and that was representing the year 2103, which I think was the most recently released Alien film, starring Michael Fassbender, if I'm not mistaken. The new crew are sent to colonize a distant planet, thinking they're finding a safe place for humans, but it's the same doomed trip, just like Prometheus. I'm not going to go too deep into these films, just to really give you the timeline brief. So, Alien, the original film Alien, that was actually set in the year 2122, and a brief synopsis of that is: a merchant ship intercepts a cryptic signal from a derelict alien spacecraft, and then all hell breaks loose. That was really a kind of a groundbreaker in the horror sci-fi genre.
Definitely it was.
One of the it was Geiger. Was the first name, please? Geiger. H.R. Geiger.
H.R. Geiger.
H.R.
Yeah.
Geiger was an artist that I think he was he a French? I don't think he was French or Austrian. I was about to say
We've got an Austrian flavour.
An Austrian flavour tonight. I think we're going to sing a little bit of
mix
Austrian for you tonight. We're going to sing a bit of bring an Austrian flavour. Edelweiss.
I just hope you're not going to put the lederhosen on.
Join in, guys.
James,
You look.
I've also got a little bit of info on Ridley Scott regarding the Alien, because it's been noted that he's kind of contradicts himself about the Alien.
Yeah, he does. I wonder if he does that intentionally. Yeah,
I think he does it intentionally because he says it wasn't the H.R. Geiger wasn't really an influence, and then he says it was an influence. He got the influence from some other guy, like a producer or art director. Mm-hmm. But come on, Ridley. It's from H.R. Geiger. Come on, everyone knows.
Yeah, I mean, you can backtrack his works and see, the influence the types of art and structure that he brought into the Alien itself, and it had that kind of sexual connotation to it. That was the intention, and a classic film. And what's interesting about Alien is it was one alien. Yeah, it was a horror sci-fi movie that broke barriers. I would say there was nothing else like it when it came out, and I think one of the most famous scenes in film history, not just in that movie, but I'd say if you took the top 100 most famous scenes in film, I'm sure Empire did this. The breakfast scene when the chest burster scene. I'm not spoiling it for anybody who hasn't seen it. I think was it 79 it came out.
Yeah,
79 it came out. That's one of the most famous famous scenes in history. So yeah, but my main point on that is people forget it was one alien. It was one alien, and that's because the next chapter in the series was Aliens, which is set in the year 2179, 50 years after the original. In my opinion, the greatest of all the Alien movies, and I think the vast majority of people would agree. After the moon has been colonized and Ripley is awakened from her hypersleep and she's sent back into battle once more, that's a very brief synopsis, because I think I know the main part of that movie was the Space Marines. Was it the Colonial Marines or Space Marines? I think they're called Colonial Marines, and essentially like Space Marines, US Marines. Not Space Marines, that's from Warhammer 40k, but the US kind of Marines, the Colonial Marines with the pulse rifles, with Hicks, coming in there, and was it? I'm trying to think. Venkman, was it not Venkman? I'm thinking of Ghostbusters. Who do we have? Who did? Who played the kind of the comedy side Marine? I'm sure Chris is going to tell me. What was his name? Was Hudson? Was it Hudson? I think it was Hudson. And fantastic! Just the group of Marines and running around with pulse rifles, the back and forth banter, and the fact that instead of one alien, there was thousands of aliens, and that was really so. That was like a horror, sci-fi, action, movie that was released about 1984, I think, and again that broke barriers. I'm not sure the numbers that it did, but again, I would say it's one of the most iconic sci-fi type films in history.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great, fantastic film. You haven't seen Aliens, kids, you need to watch this, and you'll see what happens when you use practical effects, not an overuse of CGI. So the next film in the series was Alien 3, which is 200 years later. 200 years, I assume, after the original. Ripley returns once more and crash lands into a prison, but she is not alone carrying an alien queen. She's actually been pregnant with the alien. I refused on principle to ever watch Alien 3 because they killed off Hicks, and I wouldn't watch it because Hicks was the man.
It was Hudson.
Thank you.
Bible. Well, it was Chris actually.
Well, Hicks is Hicks is a lead played by Michael Bean.
Thank you,
and
Chris.
Hudson was who played Hudson? What's the name of
Bill Paxton.
That's it, Bill Paxton. Hudson was the kind of the sidekick, the comedy sidekick in a sense. So Hicks, they killed off Hicks. So if you watch, an interesting part of Alien 3, it was filmed locally, wasn't it? Was it South Shields? It was filmed. It was filmed locally. Alien 3. Yeah, yes, I think it was South Shields or North Shields. It wasn't far away. I'm sure we can find that out. So it was a local film. It was all British cast as well, all British cast, and also it was famous because Sigourney Weaver had a head shaved for the role before Demi Moore did. She shaved her head for a role in G.I. Jane. That was it. See, I know my movies. And the latest film, which is one that we briefly mentioned, was Alien Awakening, which is potentially the latest film in the franchise, following on from Alien Covenant, which is the latest one. Now, Covenant, I'd probably scrape 7 out of 10 for that. It was maybe a 6.5 actually. I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10. So just to give you the James scores, just quickly on all of those films, starting at the top: Prometheus 6.5 out of 10, Alien Covenant 6 out of 10. No, let me start again. Prometheus 6 out of 10. Alien Covenant 6.5 out of 10, Alien 8 out of 10, Aliens 8.5 out of 10, touching 9, Alien 3, haven't watched it, and Alien Awakening, who knows? Who knows? Now, just before we get on to our main section of tonight,
just to let you know, it was the surface of the alien planet was Blast Beach and Siam.
Siam.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
A shout out to Free the Way, which is one of the rehabilitation centres I work at, and Siam, to the guys.
Brilliant. And also as well, they were filmed at Bedlington.
Bedlington.
Yeah, Blythe Power Station in Bedlington.
That was it. Blythe Power Station in Bedlington.
Yep.
And Siam.
I used to live in Blythe.
Really?
Yeah.
There you go. What?
I used to live.
And you know Ridley Scott. So
yeah,
why the hell were you on the film? And your head shaved, so you should have been on Alien 3.
Yeah, I mean, I used to, it was a long time ago, but I used to live across from Blythe Power Station, and I was actually, not me personally, but I was aware that when it was going to get blown up, bulldozed, and I watched it. I watched the destruction of the Blythe Power Station through my kitchen window.
Yeah,
it's very exciting.
It is.
Didn't have a camera at the time. Couldn't afford one. But there you go.
There's not an analogy. There's something there. What I'm trying to think.
And then I called up Ridley and we went for tea.
Yeah.
It's a little snapshot.
Big support. I was going to just before we go on to the Bruce Lee, Scott, I was going to throw back to you if you had anything to add to any of that.
No. It's just that, I don't know. It's that bizarre kind of film, not in sequence and. Just very much like Star Wars.
Oh, Star Wars. The left-wing social justice warriors took over that franchise, I'll tell you. What a load of trash it was. Well, no, it was. I mean, since we had the original Star Wars, tremendous. Obviously, Empire Strikes Back, incredible. Return of the Jedi, fantastic. The prequels, Phantom Menace actually quite enjoyed with Darth Maul, and the rest for me, just cartoons. And I love cartoons, so that wasn't a put down of cartoons. And then the new ones, I'm sorry, but stop sharing your political views and ruining the Star Wars franchise. Let Star Wars be Star Wars. And any comments, please put them in the comments section. I'll be glad to answer any replies. But they've decimated the Star Wars franchise. It's not worth the time of day. And what was the latest one that came out? It was it not Force Awakens? What was the last one? I can't remember. It was very subpar. Anyhow, here's something that's not subpar. Bruce Lee. The one, the only, the legendary Bruce Lee. Now, I think it's fair to say that the name itself is perhaps one of the most recognized names in the world. Language barriers withstanding. That's not withstanding, but withstanding. So not notwithstanding, withstanding.
Withstanding,
You
absolutely.
know,
Yeah.
I'm just going to try and pronounce. I'm going to attempt to pronounce his name in Chinese, Li Zhilong.
That's a pretty good attempt, I would say.
So I don't know. You guys, how did I get? Was that okay?
That was
wasn't
good.
too
I
bad.
think it was better than I could do.
Any Chinese viewers, please, Li Zhilong. As much recognition, I would say, as Elvis Presley, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Madonna. Maybe I'm going to show my age there. Tom Cruise. I think most people would know, or even a Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
You could say Bruce Wayne and Bruce Lee in one sentence, and I bet the people who recognize Bruce Wayne would recognize Bruce Lee's name just as equally. Perhaps for the younger generation, as an Xbox One game character, the UFC. I know Dana White's a big fan of Bruce Lee and included his character in the UFC games on the Xbox. He's a usable, playable character. They also kind of referenced him in the game Tekken. With there was a character in the game Tekken, I think it was Tekken 3. I can't remember the character's name. It will come to me. And he was just a replica of Bruce Lee. All the same moves, same, you could get the tracksuit. And I'll remember that. Viewers, if anybody's played Tekken 3 and can remember the Bruce Lee character in Tekken 3, please write it in the comments section, because I'd be interested to find out, or our man Scott could find out for me. That'd be wonderful. He's revered in the martial arts world for his physical prowess, presence, transcending the genre, transcending the discipline to film, introducing the martial arts to Hollywood. His development of Jeet Kune Do as a recognized martial art, publicly criticizing martial arts, the traditional martial arts, and bringing hope and strength to the Chinese community at large. What a tremendous man Bruce Lee is. Here's a brief synopsis of his life. It'd be hard to talk about Bruce Lee without at least giving you, I'm sure the vast majority of viewers will. Martial law.
Yeah, apparently so.
That was it. And I don't want to go off key here. In fact,
well, you are
at the end, I'm off key. No. Well, that's on key because that's Bruce Lee. But martial law is a very famous British comic book, which we'll come back to, Cliff. I don't know if you're aware of that. But martial law, there was a character, exact replica. There he is.
Yeah, there
How
he
much
is.
does he look like?
He looks very much like
much like Bruce Lee. So if you're at home now, Google martial law. Or
Tekken 3 martial law.
Tekken 3 martial law, and you'll see the similarities. So it's hard to cover Bruce Lee without a synopsis. So I'm going to do my best to do this man justice. Okay, so here we go. Li Junfan was born in November 1940 in Chinatown in California, United States, to a father who starred in Chinese opera and film. It was his father, Li Hoi Chun, that introduced him to the entertainment industry, with Bruce featuring in several films as a child actor. Lee moved to America to forward his education at the University of Washington in Seattle, studying drama as his official line of study, but also dipping into philosophy and psychology classes and lectures. And it was at Seattle that where he would meet and eventually date and eventually marry Linda Emery Lee. Lee began his Linda Emery before she became Linda Lee. Bruce Lee began his martial art instruction at 16 under the legendary Yip Man for around 2 years, demonstrating natural athletic prowess and talent. Lee began to coach Wing Chun in his own way after learning Wing Chun through Yip Man, which he dubbed Jun Fan Gung Fu after his birth name. His birth name was Jun Fan Lee, or Lee Jun Fan rather. So he named his martial art after his birth name. He eventually led his own studio in Auckland, opened his own martial arts studio, expanding his martial art knowledge with judo practitioner Jesse Glover after having boxed already as a schoolboy. He also trained and befriended Taekwondo master Jun Go-ri, adding to his repertoire, and an introduction to the Long Beach Karate Tournament, where Bruce Lee revealed his ideas to a public audience. After a challenge match with one Jack Wong Man, which Lee, who actually won, began refining his martial arts into a fluid yet direct style after becoming tired and a drawn-out combative match with Wong Man. And he created this into a style called Jeet Kune Do, which translates roughly as way of the intercepting fist. And he said something like, eliminate what is unnecessary. That was the idea. He would eliminate what was unnecessary. So at this point, Lee had trained in and had knowledge within Wing Chun, Judo, taekwondo, Western boxing, what we just call boxing, and in a sense freestyle karate as divulged through traditional karate. Lee had begun his, then became, had an idea or an aspiration to get into film. He began his film career as a young child, as I've said already, appearing in 20 films by the time he was 18. However, his introduction to the Hollywood scene was on the series The Green Hornet, playing Kato, a martial arts expert chauffeur. Several proposed projects had fallen through for Lee, including The Silent Flute and The Warrior, which was later to be rechristened and filmed as Kung Fu, starring David Carradine. Bruce was to continue his movie journey by starring and producing Hong Kong studio films, along with Golden Harvest, backed productions. The Big Boss, which I'm sure everybody's heard of, came in 1971. Fist of Fury, Way of the Dragon, which Bruce was given full creative control of, such was his station and reputation with filmgoers. Other than Game of Death, which was never completed due to Bruce's unfortunate and tragic death, Bruce's final and perhaps most well-known of and recognized film was Enter the Dragon, which was filmed in 1973, released in 1973. A true Hollywood production, Enter the Dragon tells the story of a martial arts undercover spy tasked to unearth a drug-running operation on a secluded island ruled by the notorious Han, starring Hollywood B-list actors in a sense, John Saxon and Jim Kelly. Perhaps the most recognized and revered martial arts film of all time. It earned around about $90 million on opening, costing $850,000 to make, and the total earnings over roughly the last 45 years, I would imagine, would be in the billions, including.
I would say so,
I mean, I couldn't find any record for that, but DVDs and Netflix haven't paid for it, etc. It has to be in the billions after all that time. DVD sales. What I would recommend for those who want to find out more, that's just a brief synopsis of Bruce Lee's life, but I should add this tragic but inevitable part. Bruce Lee, Lee Jun Fan, passed away in 1973, July the 20th in 1973. As I said, he was born in 1941, so he was 32 years of age when he died. It was believed, the original autopsy states that the cause of death was an edema or a swelling of the brain. Essentially, an edema means when the brain grows to larger than its normal size, which obviously presses against the skull and causes death. It may, in fact, that was what the official autopsy said, an edema of the brain, a swelling of the brain, which likely would have been caused was given to him a bit, so essentially a painkiller, which Bruce Lee may have had a reaction to. But in retrospect, as they look back, it may have in fact been a combination of heat stroke. Yeah. Bruce Lee had pituitary glands removed from under his arms to stop him sweating because he didn't want to see that on camera. But he generated so much heat, he had such a fast metabolism that he may have suffered from heat strokes, and we see that.
Wasn't he training in the heat at some point for a couple of days in that? Close to.
Well, he was training, and also he was demonstrating kicks in the apartment. Yeah. It's just I didn't want to divulge too much into the cause behind it, but no, you're absolutely right. He was a tremendously active person anyway. Moving around, he had high metabolism. He generated a lot of heat, and having that surgery may have caused this onset of suspected heat stroke, which was only revealed by Matthew Polly in his tremendous book, I would say the greatest book on Bruce Lee out there, which we'll come to in a second. And he was pronounced dead at the Hong Kong hospital, I believe, on July the 20th. His legacy remains as perhaps as I said, one of the most well-known, I would say the most well-known martial arts actor, a legacy of martial arts to leave behind him. His family, who continues this legacy, which I'm going to talk about in a second, Brandon Lee, who has also passed away at a similar age. And, we're going to talk a little bit about Bruce Lee right now, but I would like to say to those out there who want to find out more, I would give you a very brief short synopsis. You can go to Wikipedia, and I encourage anybody who does to donate £2 to Wikipedia, because they're asking for donations to keep going. I recommend these. I recommend Enter the Dragon.
Definitely, yeah.
Absolutely, to watch Enter the Dragon. I'd recommend Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, starring Jason Scott Lee, no relation, which is I don't know if a filmography is the right word. It's based on the story of Bruce Lee, but I think it's a tremendous introduction to you out there.
I haven't seen that, actually, to be honest.
I really recommend that, Scott. Dragon, with
Right,
Lee
yeah,
Jo-
okay.
I think it was with Lee Jock. Sorry, I'll come to it. I've said Lee so many times. Give me a second. Jack Wan Mang. I apologize.
Yeah.
So they have that as that's how he hurts his back. So it changes things. It over dramatizes things, but I think done in the right kind of way. So I'd recommend that.
No, I'll check that out definitely.
I also recommend. We'll come back to this. The book that we have right here, Bruce Lee, A Life by Mr. Matthew Polly, who originally wanted to write this book when his friends had said to him, well, why don't you write a book on Bruce Lee? And his reply was, well, there'll be loads of books on Bruce Lee. And I think he said there was none. I mean, this is the definitive book on Bruce Lee, which we'll talk about all these. And then lastly, I want to heavily recommend for the fight fans out there on YouTube. It's called The 5 Ways of Attack, Boxing and Bruce Lee, where this channel's actually taken Bruce Lee's methodology, fighting ideas, and actually reflected them in professional boxing, taken some high-level professional boxing matches and reflecting Bruce Lee's teaching on there.
The Lee Wild Boxing is the channel.
What is it called again? Sorry,
Lee Wiley, WYLIE Boxing.
Right. Well, I want to give a shout out to that channel because, guys, click on that. Just type in boxing and Bruce Lee, the 5 ways of attack. And check that out. That's a tremendous kind of view into the fighting ideas of concepts of Bruce Lee. Scott, I mean, do you want to put some on Bruce Lee? I mean, what can you say?
What can you say? Just an absolute true legend, as you were saying before. The iconography and what we've kind of done a homage to, or Cliff's done a homage to for the show, is just that's such a prevalent image throughout 20th century history, and he's an absolute icon of the 20th century, be that from a combat sport fighting element, or be that from an acting element, or be that from actual just a human being, and kind of some of the philosophies, his Taoism and all those kind of things that he also always, like when you see him on chat show, he talks about that kind of thing as well, which is made him as a rounded human being, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
But it's interesting how there's never really been anything out there to really. I mean, there's really documentaries bizarre. Out there. Yeah. I mean, there's no I would say high quality definitive documentaries on Bruce Lee, which is why I couldn't recommend them. I recommend any. So I just want to run through again for those who want to find out more than Bruce Lee, that don't just want to click onto Wikipedia. I really recommend. Just Google, going onto YouTube, onto the channel. Was it Mike Wiley? Sorry, the channel.
It's Lee Wiley Boxing. I'm actually just going to be putting a link into the chat now.
Fantastic.
So bear with me, folks.
We're getting a link on that, and that's well worth checking out. Bruce Lee's fighting philosophies actually live on screen, using boxers such as Floyd Mayweather to represent that. We highly recommend this book for those, and it's 600 pages, but I read this book in just over a week. I mean, and not because, well, I am quite a quick reader. I try and read about 4 books every month, but I will say that this is a book you just pick up, like Ronda Rousey's biography. You just pick it up and the time's gone. It's so easy to get into. I'm going to reread that actually. So I really recommend to pick it up at Amazon, your local bookstore. Amazon, I'm not going to diss Amazon. I think they're a great company and they employ hundreds of thousands of people. So Amazon, your local bookstore, pop into Waterstones, or where can we get books from?
Would that be
Barter Books. Dragon the Bruce Lee. Sorry, you can get picked up for $2.99 on DVD. I honestly recommend, guys. I'm going to watch that. I'm going to buy that tonight. I'm going to put it in my basket and buy it. Fantastic. Tremendous performance by Jason Scott Lee. It was actually the lady on Dumb and Dumber who plays Jim Carrey's kind of love interest, and she rejects him. What's the actress's name? Well, she actually
Cameron Diaz.
Not Cameron Diaz, but it'd be close to. I would have said something like that. That's in the mass. She plays, and she actually dated Jim Carrey for a while, and she plays Linda Lee Emery, and she does a fantastic job. So it's got a great cast. The lady, famous actress, plays Linda, who plays her mother in it as well, and the chap who plays Bruce Lee's father. All tremendous actors. So I really, really recommend strongly to anybody out there who wants to get into it to watch that. Yeah. Yes. Yes, we're going to. I just want to mention that we are going to be drawing the T-shirts and the prize imminently, because we're going to actually tie up this section on Bruce Lee, unless any of the viewers have any comments that would like to put in there. I do also want to mention Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son, who tragically passed away. We're going to do a full episode on Brandon Lee, specifically on, in my opinion, the greatest film ever created, which is The Crow, starring Brandon Lee. There's a lot of history in there. They've actually tried to film this again, to what would you say, to do a remake, and they failed on 5 occasions. Of high-level actors such as Bradley Cooper signed on board. The latest actor was Jason Momoa, and it just keeps falling through. And in my mind, I mean, there has been sequels to it, and they were dire, but that is one of the for me, the greatest film ever put onto. And you know, to the Newcastle Castle guys, I know you'd sold out your tickets. The Newcastle Castle put a showing on.
Oh, right, okay.
I know you'd sold out, but we'd spoke on the phone on 3 occasions. I emailed you twice. I said I would volunteer, and you said you'd get back. You never got back to me. You could have just said, "I'm sorry, James," but you know what? Newcastle Castle.
The keep, Newcastle Keep.
Newcastle Keep. Yeah, it's just called. Newcastle. Keep Newcastle Castle. You should have got back to me and said, "No, I'm sorry, we don't." After all that time and energy I put into trying to get to see it. Cut back to me. Yeah, Newcastle Castle. What are you doing? I emailed you 3 times. I called you 3 or 4 times. I was so passionate on the phone. I was going to volunteer, but 2 seconds.
It's the grey one. I'm not
You never got back to me, so I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed. However, so we're back onto So Brandon Lee, The Crow. We are going to cover. We're going to. That's fine. We're going to cover. We're going to cover the film in an upcoming episode. And if you have any comments or any of the viewers out there, anything you'd like to add in our discussion about Bruce Lee, then please put some comments in there. A tremendous martial artist, tremendous martial arts actor, and really is, will always be remembered as the king of kung fu, of martial arts. Right, we're going to move on now onto combat news. I'm going to talk a little bit on combat news. We haven't. No, we need to. We have prizes. We have paddles. We have hand wraps. We have tape. We have T-shirts. We have Spenny Moore Sport T-shirts. We have official Peep T-shirts. And we are going to draw the prize.
The T-shirts
today.
are for the trainer, the trainer namer.
The trainer competition, yeah.
The T-shirts for the trainer namer. Cliff's trainers on the back there when we're at Spenny Moore Sports.
Shall we do the T-shirts now, because we're getting...
So the T-shirts is for the guy with the chap with the trainers?
That's correct.
Right,
yes.
okay, so the name of the person who successfully picked the trainers was... do we have the name?
Do we have the name?
Should we come back to this? Should we...
Lauren Roberts.
Lauren Roberts. So Mr. Lauren Roberts, congratulations on naming the trainers accurately. You'll receive these 2 tremendous T-shirts, the Spenny Moore Sports kind of athletic tee, which I'm holding up right now.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's going to make. I'm going to send that off to Lauren, but his email was something else. That's what's putting us off.
And he also receives the Peep magazine T-shirt. Look at that. You can wear
Yeah,
that with
Lauren.
pride and walk the streets advertising.
We will send you those next week. So you get the Spennymoor Sports T-shirt kindly sent from Kieran from Spennymoor Sports.
Thanks, Kieran.
And the People Limited T-shirt as well. And I'll be sending those out to you, mate. So thanks for naming the correct trainers. I've been looking for those for years. Thanks a lot.
That's the second last Peep T-shirt you'll have, isn't it?
That's probably the
second last one you'll have.
Yeah.
That's it.
Plenty more on the way. Plenty more to come. Right, we're going to talk a little bit about on combat news now. We're going to move on to combat news. I'm just going to run through the combat news. We're going to have a phone in from Chris, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. Floyd Mayweather versus Tenshin Nazukawa in China.
This is a fight on I believe on the was it the Ryzen show? Floyd Mayweather said he's going to be in a 9-minute exhibition match, which is going to be three 3-minute rounds for 7 figures. So is that $100 million minimum, which will be the highest grossing exhibition bout in history as far as we're aware. It's going to be a boxing exhibition with no kicking. So essentially it means it's going to be boxing. It's promoted as Floyd Mayweather Promotion and Ryzen, and will be and it will be on New Year's Eve, December the 31st. At Saitama Super Arena in Satimara, Japan. So why do we say China? Oh, Tenjin now. Right, I think Tenjin is Chinese because it sounds very Japanese, his name. Perhaps it's my ignorance. Floyd Mayweather says smart investments. I mean, I'll talk a little bit more with Chris when he phones up, but I fundamentally don't believe that Floyd Mayweather is doing this purely for the money. The money is just he's not going to get out of bed for less than $100 million, but I don't believe for 1 second he needs the money. I don't believe for 1 second he's broke. He's friends with Warren Buffett. He's not a complete moron. So we'll talk about that. Ben Askren. Ben Askren. Funky Ben Askren, who I've kind of become more familiar with over the last few weeks. Fantastic, great fight, 18-0 I believe, has been trained with Mighty Mouse and will be fighting shortly on the UFC. We're going to talk a little bit about with that Ben Askren with Chris when he phones. Nate Diaz versus the game-bred Jorge Masvidal, my favorite fighter in the UFC. The game-bred. Nick Diaz will return to the octagon on the UFC 235 to fight Jorge Masvidal on March the 2nd in Las Vegas. And this will be Nick's first appearance in years, 4 years apparently. We've got Chris on the line right now. Hello.
Yo, how are you?
How are you, Chris? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Perfect. Oh, hang on. Are we still there, Chris?
Yeah, man, I'm still
brilliant.
there.
Just turn up the volume there. That's awesome. Yeah, we're on you're on loudspeaker, aren't you, Chris?
You can hear me okay?
Yeah, perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Let's do this.
Let's do this. Well, I'm just gonna finish that. That's it. That was it. So what we're looking at is so we're gonna go back. First of all, Chris, how you doing? What's been happening with you, my man? How have you been?
Dude, I've been training like a machine.
Yes.
I'm about to fly out to New York tomorrow.
Awesome.
So when I'm out there, I'm going to be training at Marcelo Garcia's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Academy.
Yes.
Also going to be stepping into Renzo Gracie's gym as well. So I'm going to throw down with a few of their guys and see what's going on.
Fantastic.
So I'm ready for that. So a few of our guys are getting ready to fight. I actually got asked to fight in a quintet match, which is a 5-on-5 Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament. That was going to be on the 2nd of December, but I couldn't do that because I'd already booked up to go to New York.
Yeah.
So the way that was going to work would be your team collectively has to reach a certain weight, and you'd have like featherweight, bantamweight, lightweight, light heavyweight, whatever, and the 5 of you would fight 5 other guys one at a time. Mm-hmm. Winner stays on, and once the other team's completely beat, your team wins.
Nice. It's like like a Mortal Kombat challenge tower kind of thing going on.
Basically, that's what it is. So it adds a different dynamic to combat sports where you've got your team behind you, standing right beside you while you're going to war. Also adds, it's pretty cool, and it adds the element as well that if one of your team gets beat, you're going to be avenging your brother's death.
Yeah, I love that. That's really cool. I love that.
Quite cool, man.
So
and it's submission only as well. So it's submission only, no gi, and you absolutely are not allowed to stall, or you get yellow carded. And if you stall again, you're kicked out. You've lost.
Nice. That's awesome. So we'd be be looking at that in the new year then, with you being away.
Definitely, yeah. When I come back in the new year, I'm gonna start competing heavily on the circuit and start getting moving again. Really, all I needed to do last year, which was a bit annoying, was build my knee back up again from some serious damage that I had. Yeah. And I'm feeling a good place right now. I'm doing really well in practice, and when I'm rolling with guys that are getting ready for competitions, I'm doing pretty good against them. Great. Yeah, so I feel like in a pretty good place just now. So we'll see what happens in the new year, man.
So with us having just mentioned Bruce Lee and obviously with him having coached locals were, Americans as well as Chinese. The Chinese initially didn't, traditionally didn't like Westerners being taught these martial arts, and there was a name for it. I can't remember what it was called. Essentially a challenge match. So can we be expecting you to throw a challenge match down when you go over to New York at any of the gyms there, or?
In a silent way. So what's supposed to happen is when you're up against Brazilians, you're not, or you're in an academy, a Brazilian academy, you're actually not supposed to try and ask guys of a higher belt category than you to roll. You're supposed to just put your hand up in the air. Yeah, it's deemed disrespectful to do that.
Of course.
So I'll see how I feel. If I'm catching a vibe from someone, I'll maybe just give them a nod and say like, "What's up?" See what's going on.
Sounds good, man. That's going to be awesome. And tasting some of the flavor of New York.
What's that, mate?
Tasting some of the flavor of New York as well. Just a few restaurants and things, and
of course, I'm going to be there for from the 1st till the 6th. So I've got an itinerary of all the things I want to see in New York. And the last couple of days, that's when I'm going to hit some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu academies. I've already, me, I've got my gym sorted out as well. I've got a Planet Fitness around the corner from the apartment I'm staying in.
Nice.
So I'll be training there.
Awesome.
What's that, mate?
It's very organised.
Of course.
You're very organised.
I'll be ready. Hey, can we talk a little bit about Bruce Lee, if that's cool?
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do that. Well, let's start off with that then. Let's talk a bit on Bruce.
Yeah, man. I was listening to the things you were saying about his journey and how he evolved as a fighter, and he was doing Wing Chun, and then he had a street fight with a guy, and actually from that street fight he realised that his fighting style in Wing Chun maybe wasn't the most efficient in a street fight. It was quite good in a kind of sport aspect, and that's how he started to develop into Jeet Kune Do. And actually, when you look at his movies, kind of going further on in his fighting career, you can see he starts to use a little bit of grappling as well, which actually came from a guy called Judo Jean LaBelle.
Yeah.
And so in Enter the Dragon, he catches a guy in a crucifix and arm bars the guy. He catches Chuck Norris in a guillotine. He catches someone else in an armbar in Game of Death. So, like, you can see that he was very open-minded to all styles of art, wrestling, judo, striking arts, which is a very beautiful thing. The Bruce Lee philosophy and fighting style definitely lives on now in some of the fighters that are performing in MMA.
Definitely. I mean, Dana White coined the phrase that Bruce Lee was the granddaddy or the father of mixed martial arts, and it's interesting that you said that. Because it was the armbar that he put in, and the armbar is what Ronda Rousey was obviously an Olympic standard she medaled in judo. Ronda Rousey, and the armbar she was known for the armbar for judo throwing and then armbar, and so that's obviously where it came from, isn't it?
Here's the connection then, because Judo Jean LaBelle used to always come out with Ronda Rousey in every single one of her fights.
Ah, exactly right.
Yep.
Fantastic.
He was one of our coaches.
I love that. So what kind of just briefly, what kind of effect did Bruce Lee, if any, have on you as a martial artist?
Massive, huge. I loved Bruce Lee. I loved Bruce Lee movies, even though they were, they were made in like the 70s, so obviously there was some slight ridiculousness of them. Ridiculousness. They, like one kick knockouts and one punch knockouts and stuff. I get that. There was an entertainment factor of it, but the athleticism of Bruce Lee, his philosophy on life, the way he overcame, he was constantly overcoming things with regards to people's stereotypical view of him trying to break through as an Asian actor, racism with Asian people, amongst Asian people against him. He always just had this really cool way of being able to philosophize how he was thinking and the way he was acting, and he didn't ever appear to let it stop him in any way whatsoever, and became one of the biggest icons in the world. He's probably up there in like your kind of top 10 icons in the world that have ever lived.
James,
Icon is a
can I say something?
Icon's a great word. Cliff wants to just ask something.
Yeah, Chris, can you hear us?
I can, yes.
Enter the Dragon.
Yep.
I was watching it a couple of nights ago, and I'm just thinking, Chris. Well, I haven't asked James this yet, but Chris will clear this up. Do you know when there's like a bunch of guys and they're all outside in the kind of ring, they're all having a fight, and then one guy is it Longo or Rongo, the Chinese guy who's like really well built.
Oh, the jacked guy, yeah.
Yeah.
But Bolo Yang.
Bolo, that's it.
Yeah, Bolo.
But there's another guy in a canary yellow like jumpsuit who doesn't really kick much. He just thought I'm just going to box my way through this. But who's that guy?
Oh no, I can't remember.
Do you know who I mean?
Yeah, I know the guy you mean. I cannot remember
you
who
can
that
tell
guy
he's
is.
just not a martial artist. He's like he's just like an American
Well, I think
actor.
that's what
He's well
That's
known.
the interesting thing, though.
Yeah.
Because boxing is only just one small, tiny piece of martial arts. And I guess that carries us over to the conversation about Floyd Mayweather and this 20-year-old guy, Tension, who is a very well-decorated kickboxing champion. And there was chat going about that Floyd Mayweather was going to be fighting against this guy, Tension, in Japan, and they were going to be having a kickboxing match or an MMA fight. Floyd Mayweather were going to get kicked unconscious, and James will be able to testify to that as well, being such a decorated kickboxer throughout his career. James, you know yourself, if you were going to go up against Floyd Mayweather, what would you do to him first?
Well, you want to be kicking the hell out of him, kick his legs straight away, and just keep him at distance with kicks. I completely agree. I don't want to. Can I just interject something? I don't want to stop that flow, but just on that, Michael Bisping, who I've got a lot of respect for. I mean, he talked about how it may well end up being a full contact match, which will make it more equal for Floyd Mayweather, saying that you could just maybe throw kicks to the body and to the head. I completely fundamentally disagree. That doesn't make it. Defending a kick to the body or the head is completely different from defending a punch to the body or head. That doesn't equal it up for Floyd Mayweather. If it's just so, yeah. I mean, if it's I agree with what you said. I don't want to ruin your flow because I'm really interested in what you're saying, Chris.
This is great. Yeah, go for it.
It's that. I mean, the thing is, I completely agree with what you're saying. I mean, it's interesting on the size difference because Floyd Mayweather's did he fight Mini at welterweight? I think lightweight and welterweight, and he's about 5'8", I think, and he towers over that Tension. He looks huge compared to him. So there's a physical disparity in the physical size of the two athletes. Here's the thing, and this is how I will lay it down as far as the actual fight. If it's a kickboxing match of any kind, if it's an MMA match, Floyd Mayweather will get destroyed against any reasonably competent professional mixed martial arts fighter. If it's a kickboxing match against his Tension, Floyd Mayweather will be destroyed. If it's a full contact match, Mayweather has more of a chance, but I think he will get his head kicked off. To be quite honest, I think Tension should just go out and kick him in the head, and I'm a big Floyd Mayweather fan. If it's a boxing match, the kid does not stand a chance, other than the fact that maybe he could fiddle around for 3. And I'll just lastly say this: the fact this kid is young and 20 and strong and powerful and aggressive and all this does not make one bit of difference.
No. None at all. I completely agree. I think as well, like, looking at all this, it's really hard to try and work out exactly what's happening. I think the last thing that's been said is they're going to have a 3-round exhibition boxing match. Whatever that is, I really don't know. I think there's so many things getting thrown about. Was it going to be a kickboxing match? Was it going to be an MMA match? Were they going to have an exhibition fight? And then all of a sudden it fell through. Now it's back on again. But was this all planned by Floyd Mayweather? Because he isn't just a genius in the ring, he's a genius businessman as well. And this stop-start, attracting attention to yourself, is what he does. He does it on Instagram, he does it with fights, he did it with Conor McGregor, and maybe this is what he's doing with this Tension guy as well. Maybe all along they were going to just do a 3-round exhibition moving around match, but who the hell's going to watch that? I'm not going to pay to watch that. It sounds terrible.
I agree. I mean, just to interject there with, I mean, it's interesting what you said there, which you know, the vast majority of people I've seen, plus top, you know, when I'm saying professional fighters, not professional businessmen or investors, but you know, the word on the street is Floyd Mayweather's broke. Let me just say this: I don't believe for one minute. Do you really think he's that moronic? Now, you could say, well, you know, in all due respect to Tyson spent, you know, 250 million. Floyd Mayweather's not Tyson. He has very intelligent people around him, business people. He is friends with Warren Buffett. He has not blown all his money on friggin' cars. He doesn't buy half of them. He's given the cars. He has money. I believe the reason he's doing this is because, to be quite honest, he's retired. It's not just for his ego, but obviously he has a big ego as a fighter, because he wants purpose. I think he just wants to have something to put his time and energy into, because he's bored of sitting around driving fast cars, being on the beach. He's still a young guy. It's not for the money, but okay, so why doesn't he do it for free? Because he's not a friggin' moron. That's the whole point. He's a businessman. They're going to give him $100 million to fight 3 rounds exhibition. They're not going to make, I think, and I'll say this last thing, I think Ryzen, the company, is as smart as a smart company. Where can you put $100 million? Let's say it's $100 million. Where can you put $100 million into advertising that's going to give you this much publicity as what this has?
Exactly. I think the big thing as well is look at the numbers. So I think it was Kevin Hart. So I'm just going to jump about a little bit here. But it was Kevin Hart, and I might have said this on this podcast before, so forgive me if I have. Kevin Hart was getting ready to do a movie. He signed the contract for the movie, and then the company said to him, "Great, Kevin, what we want you to do now is we want you to promote this on your Instagram page." And so he pushed over the contract and said, "Cool, let's renegotiate, because I have more people on my Instagram than you'll ever be able to get advertising-wise, so give me more money." And that is essentially the same as Floyd Mayweather. I think he's got nearly 30 million people on Instagram. I don't know how many he has on Facebook, don't know how many he has on Twitter. So he is essentially a marketing machine within himself anyway. So he brings not just Floyd Mayweather to the table, he brings a huge marketing machine, which in Japan seems to be, even though it was originally, but Japan appears to be the fashionable place right now for martial arts, because you've got the crossover of fighters happening with Ben Askren getting traded off for Mighty Mouse. You've got Rickson Gracie's son apparently coming over to the UFC from Ryzen. So you've got all this stuff happening right now between USA and Japan, and it's attracting a lot of attention for the Japanese market. And that's probably what's attracting Mayweather over there right now. He's kind of jumping on that bandwagon a little bit. And I'm sure he'll try and rinse them for as much money as they've got, because he's a smart guy.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, just the last one, that was some tremendous insight, Chris. And just can I just get, what would your prediction be on assuming it is a 3-round exhibition, which I honestly don't think that kid's going to hold back. I think he's going to try and go out and if he's got any sense, he'll try and knock him out.
James, what's an exhibition match?
It doesn't.
I don't know what it is. I've been reading about this for 2 months. I still don't know what an exhibition boxing match is. What is it?
Well, an exhibition match is meant to be when 2 fighters kind of have a gentleman's agreement that they're not going to try and knock each other out. There's kind of essentially a hard sparring session, or a sparring session. That's right. What an exhibition is. Or it could be a fight where it's not going to go on people's records, which evidently this isn't either. So an exhibition doesn't count on your record. So it has been in the past where likes of not the Cinderella Man, but who fought for the world title, Max Baer. He was meant to be an exhibition match against another fighter, and the other fighter came out and tried to bang him out, and then it was Max Baer, I think, knocked him out, because he just came running out. He goes, and the clinch, and he says, what are you doing? This is meant to be an exhibition match. And the guy goes, I know, but I'm going to knock you out. So Max Baer just turned around and knocked him out with the next punch. So it's kind of a gentleman's agreement that it's going to be a hard or medium spar, but no, and the result won't count on your record, and that's essentially what it's meant to be.
Chris?
Okay.
Chris?
Yo.
The best exhibition match ever was the Ultimate Male v the Ultimate Meatball. Come on.
the one.
This is Rocky. Yeah. There you go. That was the Ultimate Exhibition.
Yeah.
So. Right, what else we got?
Right, okay, let's go. So,
with something else.
Yeah, let's do it. Ben Askren, Funky Askren, trade over with, moving to the UFC, essentially.
Okay, Ben Askren. So right now we're in the entertainment era of mixed martial arts, where people just want to see people punching each other's faces. And again, And that seems to be the most exciting thing for the casual fan, where they maybe just want to see a Conor McGregor type guy throwing spinning kicks and knocking people out, and they get upset when they see people doing grappling. And so the UFC had avoided getting Ben Askren in for quite a long time. Ben Askren, Dana White had some wars on Twitter for years, till eventually Dana White just blocked him. But it looks like the lighter weight divisions that you've got Henry Cejudo is the champion of, Mighty Mouse had just lost the belt to him. The kind of lower weight guys don't really seem to be moving the needle much with regards to making money for the UFC. So they're going to be getting rid of that division. And in that process, before it got announced, they traded off Mighty Mouse for Ben Askren to bring him over, because Ben Askren is a marketing machine within himself. He talks the talk. He's very smart. I think he's got a degree in accounting and finance from the University of Wisconsin or something. He is an Olympian wrestler. He, to like the casual fan, might not be the most exciting guy in the world to watch, but for someone like me who loves grappling, it is so clinical. He's like a surgeon, drags people to the ground, beats them half to death, or drags them out for 3 or 5 rounds, beating them half unconscious in the most technical way. Really, really great fighter. But he's fighting Robbie Lawler. They're going to be fighting, I think, in January or February time, which is going to be an amazing fight.
Good fight.
You've got one of the most decorated strikers in the UFC fighting this unknown guy. Well, not unknown in inverted commas. Like, I know who he is, but your casual fan won't really be aware of who he is.
No.
But Ben Askren, the asterisk beside Ben Askren's name is, who has he fought? He's fought in Asia his whole career. He hasn't fought the, in inverted commas, world's best, who are associated with the UFC. So now we get to see him just getting dropped right in there with a veteran that is Robbie Lawler.
It's going to be an interesting one. I didn't know who Ben Askren was until I watched not his last fight, but his previous fight with the I'm going to have to just say the Russian wrestler, and he came out and he just picked up Askren and just, kind of like manhandled him and kind of body dropped him, or like half suplexed him, and people were like, oh, well, he's done this to Ben Askren, and Askren just kind of rode it out and just smothered him and kept on top of him. So, but then after watching that, I thought, okay, he's cool. I mean, I appreciate wrestlers, and I appreciate the jiu-jitsu guys. I'm not just into the strikers. I do appreciate the whole skills and the whole deal. I mean, my favorite. I mean, I always liked Frank Mir and Belfort, even though he's known as a striker. But then when I watched him against when he did his podcast with Joe Rogan, I think it was fantastic. I mean, he speaks so well. He's an interesting guy, and I can't wait to see him move over to the UFC. And it talked a little bit about him and Dana White's history of kind of not disagreeing with different things and the big wars that they'd had. And Rogan has said, look, just he's a good guy. I've got a lot of respect for Dana White since I watched the interview with him and Anthony Robbins. But I think having Askren over is fantastic. I mean, having the funky man there, I think it's going to be wonderful. And they're talking about potentially a fight against Khabib, but let the guys go in there, let him go in there and make his mark, and do what he does.
Absolutely. Like I say, we are in, so like WWE style, we had like the Attitude Era. This is in MMA and martial arts is the entertainment era. This is where everybody has access to apps on their phone. You can get the Ryzen app, you can get the ONE FC app, you can get the Glory app, you can get UFC, and you can watch them anywhere, anytime. UFC are fantastic at putting stuff on YouTube about fighters. You can watch them train. Fighters are putting things up about themselves all the time. So a lot of the time, it might not be too much now about the fighter per se, and about the actual fight per se. A lot of it actually comes from, as you know, the entertainment side of it, and he is an extremely entertaining, articulate guy, and he's very, very clever on social networking. He's been destroying people. As soon as he got signed to the UFC, he was just tweeting all the fighters in his division, calling them out, tearing them apart, telling them what they were, how bad they were, telling them their stats. And that's what you need. That creates excitement. That's why we're talking about him right now.
Exactly. So it's gonna be interesting seeing him moving and do what he does. So we recommend to the viewers, if you haven't seen anything on Ben Askren, you might want to just highlight, go onto YouTube, type in Ben Askren, Ben Funky Askren highlight reel, and perhaps watch him on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah, the Funk Master.
The Funk Master. Last little bit of combat news to discuss then before we let you get away is the Nate Diaz versus Georgie Gamebred Miami Hustle Masvidal.
Nick Diaz. So Nick.
Nick Diaz. I do apologize.
Let me go through my little archive here. So Nick Diaz last win was in 2011. He's just. I mean, he was like really, really active for such a long period of time, and then just kind of came and went for a while. But 2011 was his last win. I think he fought Carlos Condit, lost a decision, fought George St. Pierre, lost a decision, fought Anderson Silva, and I think Anderson Silva tested positive for steroids, and he tested positive for marijuana, so that was a no contest. So he's just been, what was that, like 2015 he fought Anderson Silva? So he's just been on the sidelines, doing triathlons, smoking weeds, going to, I think he's like the guy in Vegas, you know, if you want someone to come to your bar and show up and be a celebrity, he gets paid to do that. So that's essentially what he's been doing for the past few years. But Masvidal and him are a great matchup. And I'll tell you this, so his Nick Diaz's brother Nate mentioned something about Masvidal. He said, you know, the only real guy, the only real G in the UFC is Masvidal, because he backs everything up he says. He used to be a street fighter. He turned into an MMA fighter. The same as them, because he used to be street fighters as well. And it was like a month or so after that the rumors started circulating that Nick Diaz was going to be matched up against Masvidal. And I think that match is hoping to be made for March.
How do you
which is an amazing match. I mean, it would be really great to see.
I mean, well, a mismatch, because Masvidal, I mean, he is known for that. It was with his backyard brawl with what was it? Who'd arranged those backyard brawls? He fought in the UFC a little bit. What was he called? I had it in my
5000.
Yeah, I had it in my notes.
Yeah,
Kimbo Slice, that was it. Kimbo Slice was he was back in that, but Masvidal had wrestling. I mean, he wrestled in college. Obviously, we watched him on Miami Hustle, and he's known as, I would say, in my opinion, one of the most fluid and I would say effective strikers in mixed martial arts. He's got a fantastic striking coach, Paulin Hernandez. And so he's got his wrestling background. He's got his striking background, but the guy can fight, and we knew in the past that he'd struggled with his training. He didn't fully commit to his training and his diet, his nutrition, but he's kind of got that under control, hasn't he, since he moved to American Top Team?
Absolutely. I mean, he was a young guy back then, wasn't he, when he first started really doing pro fighting? He was just like living the life, going out drinking. Yeah. He was having ice cream and brownies for breakfast, and then he would just squeeze himself into a weight cut by just getting sauna suits on and killing himself. But he's much more advanced than that now. With the team that he's got, his best friend's Colby Covington. Colby. Who's an unbelievable wrestler. And their martial arts academy is renowned for being just fantastic on the ground as well. Yeah. And I know Masvidal really bases his striking around about some great boxers like Pernell Whitaker. Yeah. And you can see that by the way he moves. He's so fluid, and he always just seems to be just like a feather away from the range of a knuckle. And this kind of almost like the same style as Nick Diaz. Like they both play a kind of defensive stroke offensive striking, right, where they're just like a cobra waiting to attack type thing. Yeah. Would that cancel each other out in a fight? I don't know. If it hits the ground, will Masvidal's wrestling be able to beat Nick Diaz's black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and years of experience? Yeah. I don't know. But I want to see it happen because I love both of them, man. They'll both come genuinely to fight each other. And money-wise, yeah, they'll probably care about that, but they'd rather care about the pride aspect of it.
Definitely. Well, that's one fight I'm truly looking forward to. I can't wait to see my man Georgie Masvidal back in doing what he does. Just the last thing, actually, just kind of get your prediction for the big fight tomorrow night, or actually be Sunday morning over here, the Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder.
Yep, Tyson Fury's going to win.
Yep.
It's either going to be a TKO or he's going to take it all the way. Deontay Wilder's a terrible boxer, but his unorthodox style's got him, about 30 knockouts of cans.
Yeah.
That's cool. And I'm sure
39.
anyone can be knocked out at any time at heavyweight level because of like the power they put behind themselves. But that kind of windmilling rubbish, I don't know if at Tyson Fury is a boxer, Deontay Wilder's a windmiller.
Yeah.
I'm sure Tyson Fury will be able to close that distance on the windmilling and old man him to the point of which he's quite tired, and then box his face and ribs off.
I agree. I'm going to take that prediction as well. I'm going to go for Tyson Fury to win. I've been saying that for ever since I started on the show, but I believe TKO. I'm going to go Tyson Fury TKO, definitely.
Yep. Everybody else think that in the office?
Yeah.
Well,
we've got Scott's got that. Cliff's got one last question, I think. Cliff.
Yeah, Chris. I think James could probably answer this as well, but if I'm correct, Tyson Fury was about 27 stone, 26 stone, maybe last year or whatever, and he's come into camp. I thought it was quite an interesting thing. What Deontay said is, when I come into camp to train, but when Fury comes into camp, that's like a weight loss camp. He's in camp to lose weight. But I think this is my question, and James can add into this one because he'll know more about this than me. Someone coming in and losing, I don't know how many stone. Like, has he lost 10 stone?
He lost 10 stone.
I mean, how is that going to affect you when you go round 4, round 5, round 6, round 7 with someone like Deontay Wilder? Surely that's going to take its toll on the body, just like when Tony Bellew fought, and I predicted that right. I said he was going to go downhill after round 5, 6, and he did, because his weight was a bit up and down, and I'm just thinking it's going to hit Fury hard, maybe round 6, round 7. I mean, what do you and James think about this?
Do you want to go first, James?
No, you go, Chris. You go, my man.
Very interesting point you just made there. Listening to what Tyson Fury's been saying, whether it's true or not, Tyson Fury's been saying that the majority of his camp has been sparring. So, he has been losing weight. That has been a small piece of the pie, but the majority of his camp has been rounds upon rounds upon rounds upon rounds. It hasn't just been fat camp eating Weight Watchers meals and cutting weight. I think that's a bit one-track minded by Deontay to say that, and quite an easy jab to make when you've got someone that's lost that amount of weight. But by the looks of it, and by looking at Tyson Fury on the mitts and looking at his training regime and looking at the stuff he's been releasing, he is moving like a weapon right now. I mean, what age is he? Tyson Fury's only 30 years old, even though he looks 158. Yeah. He is moving like a monster right now, and I do not think he's skipped a beat in any way whatsoever. And I don't think... I do get what you mean, though. Like, will he be able to have the stamina to get him to, like, that 7th, 8th round because of this weight cut? But it's not like with this weight cut where he's been massively huge and he's tried to squeeze himself into fight shape within, like, a few weeks. This has been like over the course of 9-10 months he's been doing this. Maybe longer. So it's been a prolonged period of time. So good point. We'll see what happens. But from my point of view, I think that he's probably done everything well enough to get him to the end of a 12-round fight.
I don't actually think that Tyson Fury will knock Deontay out, but because he never really knocks anyone out, does he? Let's be fair. Unless it's Tony Cunningham.
Well, he's got
on his
16
last
knockouts, I think, doesn't he? Let me just double check that. It's like 16 or 19 or something, I think.
I think it'll be. I think it's going to be
19 knockouts.
I think it's going to be a great fight, but I'm picking Deontay.
It's interesting. I mean,
controversial.
I think. I mean, for me, the weight loss will not affect Tyson. I'll tell you why. Because these reasons. Number one, yes, he's lost all that weight, but he's not like he's been a certain weight, lost the weight, and now he's a ripped body. He's still carrying body fat, so it's not like he's had to kind of lose all that weight to make a weight. He's a heavyweight, so his weight's naturally come down as he's been training to his athletic fighting weight, which means he still has fat in his body. I'd be more worried if he's ripped and down to 2 or 3% body fat. I'd think, Jesus, you have no energy, you have nothing left.
Yeah.
So that's the first. And the second thing I would say is, who did he just box 12 rounds with within the last 3 or 4 years and won the world title against one of the greatest heavyweights in history with the greatest heavyweight record? Vladimir Klitschko.
2015.
Didn't struggle with that. So the weight will not be an issue, and the conditioning will not be an issue at all.
I just wanted to throw that in there, you know.
Fair enough.
No, it's great because, but I totally agree. But I think it's more of a danger for like a Ricky Hatton to go from being
That's who I thought of, actually.
14 stone to come down to 9. And be ripped in condition, where it is for Fury to come down from 30 stone down to 20. I think it's less damaging to his body.
Yeah, I agree. And as well, he has had a couple of fights. Like, he fought in June and he fought in August and was like at fighting weight at those points. So it's not like he was just 100 stone and then all of a sudden he started cutting weight for this fight. Like, he has been in fight mode since June, when he had that fight against Sefer Safari, and then he fought in August against Francesco Pianetta. So he's been in fight shape essentially for more than half the year. Ready for this, you know what I mean? Ready for Deontay Wilder. So
100%.
I get that jibe from Deontay Wilder. I can understand your points, but they're nonsensical because the evidence shows that for 6 months he's been in fight shape.
Absolutely.
And he's just getting into even better shape for this.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, can we just say thank you for joining us for tonight? It's really grateful for you to take your time out, especially when you're flying to New York tomorrow to go and wrestle with the Gracies and Machidas of the world. So thank you for that. Obviously, we'll see you again on the next show, which I believe will be the 30th of January or somewhere around there.
25th, something like that.
25th, back end of January, and then hopefully we'll see each other, between then and get some training together and get something to eat. And go to the movies, man.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. And I just want to say that I'm obsessed with martial arts and I love being able to speak about it with you guys. If I can say as well, if people that are listening can go to thechrisreidshow.com, check out my podcast, and you've got access to my social networking sites there, and you can see what I'm getting up to when I'm traveling the world. But I look forward to hopefully being back on your show again in January, and if I can be a regular, I'd love that as well.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Chris.
Excellent. Cheers, man.
Thanks, man. Take care. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's great. Just that great little interjection there from, well, not interjection, but the Hollywood Boyle, our man up in Scotland there, giving some incredible insights on the Mayweather, on the Askren, on the Masvidal, and on the Fury fighters and upcoming matches. Now, we're coming towards the end of the show, so we have a few more things in store for you, but now we're going to do the competition fight pack draw. We are randomly going to pick now. Our man here, Mr. Scott Illingworth, has hand cut 2,000 subscribers names and put them into this tub here, which is also decorated. One lucky person is going to win the Toughwear synthetic paddles with bag. The Toughwear hand wraps ×2. The Toughwear Empire Pro Tape ×3. The Toughwear bandages ×4. We have over around 40 pounds, not weight, it might be weight as well, but over 40 pounds sterling worth of equipment to give away. And we are now going to randomly draw a subscriber's name. Here we go. Sponsored by Spending More Sports.
Thank you very much, Spending More Sports and Kieran.
Thank you, Kieran. Here we go.
I'll hold it, you can draw.
Yeah, here we go.
Eyes closed.
Chris Reid, if you're watching.
I'm not, that's what that's about.
Oh, I think that could be the one it's one of these two. Did one just fall out as well?
Just fall
No,
give me that. No, that's important. Right, Cliff. Left or right? My left or my right?
Right.
My right. It is. I don't believe it. At Watling Hot, that's me. I've got it. Hey! Woohoo! Thank you. Well, I just want to give a bit of an acceptance speech. I'd like to thank Peep Magazine for having me on all this time. I'd like to thank Kieran Malone.
Who was the winner? Sorry, James.
At Spennymoor Sports. I'd like to thank. It is Clem.
Well, there, I'm going to cut back. Go for it.
Clem Machado. Clem Machado. Unless I'm reading that. Yes, it is. Clem Machado. So, Mr. Clem Machado, congratulations. You have won these incredible items. We'll be sending them out to you by hopefully first class postage, not second class.
Yeah,
because we have the big money here.
I'm going to send them out to you, and
we're going to be.
We just want to say thanks for subscribing.
Yeah, thanks
to everybody.
Thanks to everybody. We wish we had 2,136 prizes to give away. Unfortunately, we don't. But
you are the
winner, and we will. Can I just say as well, Cliff? We will have other prizes on future shows. That isn't the. We will be doing regular prizes. We've done prizes in the past, and we'll continue to do prizes. We'll be giving away when we do on our special Crow edition of the show. We'll be giving away a unfortunately not a signed copy.
We'll be giving away James's car.
We'll be giving away. You're welcome to have my car because I've got a few bits of work that need done. So if you could bring it back to me done, like fixed, I'll be more than happy. So you can have it for a month and then bring it back to me with all the bits fixed. No problem. We're going to give away a copy of Brandon Lee The Crow 2-disc collector's edition special. Signed by only fortunately just by us by the Peep. In fact, we're going to give away a copy of The Crow. And we're going to give a Peep T-shirt signed by all of us here at the Peep Studio, including Mr. Mr. Chris Reid, because I'll make sure we have it signed by him as well. If we have a T-shirt actually in the studio today, Cliff, I'll take it away with me because I'll be seeing Chris between now and the next show, and I can get it signed by him. So
I think David Wheels online.
He is, yeah. He was getting excited about the prize draw.
I
mean, who wasn't? Who was?
Let me just double check that. It's actually Mr. David Wheels. Well done, Mr. Wheels. How did you manage to win?
Do you want Clem to email?
Clem.
Yeah. Do you want him to email? Info@?
Yeah. What would be great, Clem, is if you're watching this from your YouTube channel, would probably be the easiest to get in touch with Peep Magazine via YouTube. That's probably the easiest, instead of sending random emails and I don't know who they're from. It's best that, for all correspondence to go straight through YouTube. Thank you. Okay.
Congratulations, Clem.
Thanks, mate.
Brilliant.
Right, we're going to move on to the final part of the show. Is our usual slot, not with Ridley Scott, but with Mr. Jordan Peterson. Mr. Jordan Peterson is a philosopher, clinical psychologist, and author of great acclaim. He wrote this incredible book called The 12 Rules for Life, an antidote to chaos. That way?
That's the one.
Yeah. So we endorse and recommend this book for our viewers out there. A tremendous life-affirming and changing book. Some of the praise for Jordan Peterson, the most influential public intellectual in the Western world right now by New York Times. One of the most electric and stimulating public intellectuals at large today, fearless and impassioned, The Guardian, and You Have Nothing to Lose But Your Own Misery, by Toronto Star. So we've been going through the rules, not so much chapters, but the rules of life here. We're on each show. We've been talking, giving you the headline of what the rule is and a little bit of our interpretation of it, plus some of the excerpts from the book itself. We should mention that the artist name, I don't have a chance just to go back right now, but some of the tremendous artwork in the book as well, so we'll give a shout out to the artist. So, rule number 4 is compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. So, my interpretation of this is essentially what it says on the title, that especially in today's society, we have a tendency to essentially to compare ourselves to who somebody else is today, whether it's through health, whether it's through appearance, through material success, wealth, which is the big one, I'd say, through fame, through followers, through likes.
Yeah.
And we tend to think, well, why aren't we like that now? And we're comparing ourselves up. I mean, the human mind compares up. We never compare down. We never compare ourselves to who has less. We always compare ourselves to who has more, which I think is good in a sense, because it can be very it can be motivating and stimulating to get you to move forward to achieve that. But it can also be very demotivating and deliberating and actually cause you to cause inaction. So instead of taking action to improve your circumstance, you think, well, why should I bother? So the idea behind this rule, I'll just give my interpretation and then Scott's, and then I'll give some of the excerpts, is essentially that we are more likely to criticize ourselves rather than give ourselves a certain amount of credit, that we mark ourselves very harshly. So say if we have 10 tasks to do, rather than even tackling the first task, we'll just say, well, why should I bother? It's too many. Where in actual fact, what we could do, instead of giving ourselves 10 tasks, we could give ourselves 3. And we could, and instead of taking an hour on each task, we could maybe take 5 minutes on the first task and say, well, do you know what? I've done 5 minutes. Give yourself a pat on the back, and then perhaps you can build that up to doing 15 minutes, then build up to do 25 minutes, and progress slowly. So that's essentially the sin of envy, that we envy other people. We want to be other people, but we feel unable, incapacitated to take the steps towards that. So therefore it becomes, we end up becoming resentful rather than becoming inspired.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think another part is as opposed to getting hung up, I think he uses a really good example of, like, actually, I could do my boss's job. I want my boss's job. Yeah. But if your boss doesn't leave or retire or gets demoted or gets sacked or whatever, you're not going to get that job. So instead of focusing on something that you may or may not eventually get, is to go, okay, that's something I'd like to achieve. Is there another way around that? Is there something else I can do to move forward to get that position? Be it moving company, changing jobs, be it looking for a different department within the same company, etc., etc. As opposed to focus on the negative, going, my boss is rubbish.
Yeah, exactly. So rather than, I suppose that's the other, I don't know, unconscious. I don't know if it's unconscious bias is quite the right word, but that kind of nature of our own is to develop that jealousy and that resentment, and that rather than trying to kind of reach up to where that person or to climb up to where the person is, to either try and pull that person down or.
Peterson points out that, that boss there, you may think he's got a wonderful life or whatever, but he could be going through a divorce. His wife could be having an affair. You don't know what else is going on. He could be an alcoholic. You just don't know what else is going on.
Good breakdown, Scott. Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely that's the thing. We look at, say, I mean, I think he picks an example of a rock star. That rock star with all the money and all the fame and all that he's got going on. And actually, I'm just going to cross-reference.
Yeah,
I don't off key. I went to go see it. Even though you gave me jip for it, A Star Is Born, with starring Lady Gaga, but I believe her real name.
It wasn't not the Chris Christopherson one then.
No, that's right. No, it's a remake, Bradley Cooper's remake of it, and I've got to give that film like an 8 out of 10. An incredible film and soundtrack, fantastic. Really recommend it. But the reason I'm referencing that, because Bradley Cooper, who plays the star, I can't remember his character's name, but he's like the world's most famous rock star, and he has tremendous amount of fame and wealth. But he's going through issues he's losing his hearing. He's got tinnitus. Right, okay, Americans call it tinnitus. So he's losing his hearing, which obviously affected the fact. Was it Mozart or Amadeus who was losing their hearing? They were slowly going deaf. I think it was was it Beethoven?
Beethoven was deaf. Beethoven's deaf. He was about 9, I think.
Losing his hearing, and imagine the kind of trauma that would cause. You're an artist. You live off the sound, and you're losing the ability to hear that sound. And also, he has the wealth, etc. So he's losing his hearing. But then also, he'd undergone a traumatic childhood. His father was an alcoholic, and so he grew up with it without feeling of love. His mother left. I think his mother had left him. So he had a traumatic childhood. He's losing his hearing. And he obviously meets this girl, and that she changed life. He falls in love, but he still has that kind of like that brokenness about him, even though he's wealthy. So on the appearance, it would be like, oh, he's got all this, but has he really got it all because he's got this? So I mean, would that be a simple lesson of in a sense, count your blessings, or count your blessings and be grateful for what you have, because you never know what the other person has.
Yeah, no, I think
positive and negative.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think as well, and I think it's going back to that point of going, well, okay, you're not entirely happy with your situation or yourself or your circumstances, whatever it may be today, and that goes back to that element of going, well, what can you do that may take 5 minutes, may take an hour, whatever it may be, to improve yourself slowly so you're a better person tomorrow. Which goes back to the title of the.
Let me. This is great stuff, Scott. I think you've, if you don't let me say, I think you've really studied this chapter. over all the other ones that we've done. Not that you didn't bring good stuff to the other ones, but that's interesting. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to read these chapters, these small paragraphs. I'd like to get your interpretation of that because we're on a roll here. So this was so what I've done is I've selected the paragraphs that I think almost give a tracking point for what the chapter's about, like a beginning, middle, and an end. So a chapter might be, let's say it's 1,000 words. So it's more than that, but say it's 1,000 words. I've picked 150 words to represent that whole timeline of the chapter. So this is what I think is a good introduction to it. When we are very young, we are neither individual nor informed. We have not had the time nor gained the wisdom to develop our own standards. In consequence, we must compare ourselves to others because standards are necessary. Without them, there is nowhere to go and nothing to do. As we mature, we become, by contrast, increasingly individual and unique. The conditions of our lives become more and more personal and less comparable with those of others. Symbolically speaking, this means we must leave the house, ruled by our Father, and confront the chaos of our individual being. We must take note of our disarray without completely abandoning the Father in the process. We must then rediscover the values of our culture, veiled from us by our ignorance, hidden in the dusty treasure trove of the past, rescue them and integrate them into our own lives. This is what gives existence its full and necessary meaning.
Okay.
What could we draw from that?
Right, I'm trying to,
It's a lot to process. It's easy for me to sit and read it.
Yeah. It's
not as easy for you to...
It's easier to process as I'm reading in my head as opposed to hearing it from your own dulcet tones there, James. I don't know. I'm trying to think there about actually breaking your thought processes down, and then. So I'm just getting told off by Cliff, everyone, for not talking to the mic. It's you can't get the professionals this day and age. That's all I can say. I'm sorry, Cliff. So it's about breaking down yourself stroke your habits, and then once you've broke them down, look at the good habits, the bad habits, and then try to move forward from that and take up just move forward from it in a different way and try to get rid of slowly get rid of those bad habits. I think. But
to come in, and also I'd add to that to kind of that when we're younger, that we need to compare ourselves with others because we don't have anything else. We don't have ourselves.
Not true. Yeah.
Because we haven't have enough experience. But then we can draw perhaps from role models or people want to aspire to be. But then we find ourselves within that, and then we're able to develop and then build on that as well.
No, definitely.
In all honesty, here the paragraph I've actually lost the second paragraph, so I'm going to try this. Called upon properly, the internal critic will suggest something to set in order, which you could set in order, which you would set in order voluntarily, without resentment, even with pleasure. Ask yourself, is there one thing that exists in disarray in your life or your situation that you could, set straight? Could you and would you fix that one thing that announces itself humbly in need of repair? Could you do it now? Imagine that you are someone with whom you must negotiate. Imagine further you are lazy, touchy, resentful, and hard to get along with. With that attitude, it's not going to be easy to get you moving. You might have to use a little charm and playfulness. I'm trying to reduce some of the unnecessary suffering around here. I could use some help. Prefaced by, excuse me, you might say to yourself without irony or sarcasm. Keep the derision at bay. I'm wondering if there was anything else that you could be willing to do. I'd be very grateful for your service. Ask with honesty and humility. That's no simple matter. So the idea to motivate ourselves perhaps is harder than what we give ourselves credit for, and that we shouldn't be so No, absolutely. Yeah, so hard on ourselves if we don't make those changes within a short space of time.
And also as well, as that paragraph closed there, was getting to the point of actually, you sometimes you can't do everything that you want to do by yourself, and you need that helping hand, and don't be afraid to ask for it.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to end with this.
Go on then.
Attend to the day, but aim at the highest good. Now your trajectory is heavenward. That makes you hopeful. Even a man on a sinking ship can be happy when he clambers aboard a lifeboat, and who knows where he might go in the future. To journey happily may well be better than to arrive successfully. Ask and ye shall receive, knock and the door will open. If you ask as if you want and knock as if you want to enter, you may be offered the chance to improve your life, a little, a lot, completely, and with that improvement some progress will be made in being itself. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today.
It's all
done. Okay.
Just a quick one. Just a quick
Yep.
shout out to first time listener,
Go,
first time
go.
viewer. Good.
Love that.
Thanks for watching, Paul. It's appreciated, and hope you tune in. And we may take you up on that offer of getting you involved and getting you on at some point. So yeah, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
We're just going to go to rule 5, just to give you a preface for next month, next show.
January.
Do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. Okay, right. Thank you, Mr. Jordan Peterson. We recommend that you go out and buy that book at Amazon, at your local bookstore, at Waterstones, or Mr. Cliff Sainsbury. Barter Books. Issue.
Yeah.
Oh, the second-hand bookshops are available.
Do you want to? Yeah. Barter Books. Anybody want to do the issue?
We can do. Yeah,
Let's do that.
I'd say you touched upon it at the top of the show, James. But yeah, it's still Tokyo 16, the latest Peep magazine, is available to buy now on issue.com. That's ISS. Is it W? I always forget if it's W or single.
ISSW.
W as in UU, not a W.
Big thanks to Issue once again. Thanks a lot.
Big thanks to Issue. It's appreciated. Basically, we'll be getting our heads together for issue 17 in the next few weeks. But if you want to get issue 16, you can do so, as I say, buy that now. Or you could subscribe, because we're going to be putting out 4 a month, 4 a year.
Yeah.
So that's going to cost a whole £10. So that's, actually, no, it's £8.
Huh?
Oh, no, yeah. No, well, anyway,
It's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Single issues are £3.
We
Subscriptions
don't know how
£10. Yeah. We should really do our research before.
You save. Is it 17%?
17%.
Yeah. If you subscribe to the 4 year, you'll save 17%, and go for it. Go on issue.
Yeah.
now.
Go and purchase. That'd be appreciated.
Can
That'll also help us go and provide not just the magazine but content into the channel as well for all subscriptions that are purchased.
Yeah. What I was also going to say is, just to end on with the whole issue thing, is that we'll also be looking for contributions. If there's anyone out there, I'll just put it out there anyway. I mean,
Definitely.
If there's any writers out there, photographers, artists, cultural voyeurs, social commentary people, we want to hear from you. So get in touch with contact@peepmagazine.co.uk.
Brilliant.
Excellent. So another year rolls by, another show
Done and
in
dusted.
the line. So I'd like to thank Mr. Cliff Sainsbury. Looking forward to the Sainsbury fortunes coming in.
Yeah.
Mr. Scott Illingworth, thank you very much for joining us this year.
Thank you, James. Yeah,
It's been a great year. I
It
can't
has
believe
been.
it's December, and we're going to get on. I think we'll wait till the summer. We'll get that triathlete. That what we'll call it, the triathlete challenge.
Yeah.
Take me on one of your triathlons.
We could do something in the winter. Have worked something out. So.
Yeah. We'll that's brilliant. We'll wait till the summer. Let's let the sun hit.
Yep. Absolutely.
We will be coming to you soon with a fairly local, iconic historical cinema visit, which we'll be doing soon. That's going to be happening imminently. You can go onto our channel and find many of the various kind of posts that we have up there. We've done videos on Bartle Books. We've done visits to the Baltic.
Spending
More
Spending
Sports.
More Sports, of course.
Neo-expressionism.
There was also a
John-
fantastic
Expressionism.
documentary on John Wood. Is it?
Lots,
John Wood, yeah.
Yeah.
lots on there.
John Neo-expressionism. So go and check that out.
That's a
Lots.
must watch.
Lots to see. We'll be having another visit to the Elite Fitness Gym as well, doing a little bit of piece there, and a little piece on Almouth, the historical Almouth. We're going to be visiting a few sites there. We might even do a little quick hit back to the mighty Barter Books. We'd like to thank Consinity for the use of their music. We would like to thank you, the viewer. You can find us at Peep Magazine, Peep Limited, and Peep Magazine on YouTube, which I assume you're watching right now. You can find me on Team Alpha 1424 at Watling Mr. Scott Illingworth. Where can we find? Is it at Scott Illingworth?
It's at Peep Scott on Twitter, at Scott James Illingworth, I think, on Instagram.
Brilliant. you'll find us anyway. A shout out to the staff at the Church of England Academy who'll be waiting for me in the Hancock right now. Last year, I think when I went out on the staff night, I managed to rip a bison's head off the wall and take it home. So,
Okay.
these things must be done on a night out. So we'll see if I can get back in there. But all in all, it's been great. So thank you very much to the viewer. Thank you to Ridley Scott for supporting us here. And we'll see you in 2019. We peep out.